The spirit of 1.8 million West Virginians wills you to victory. Other places have pro teams, but in this state, the Mountaineers are a way of life.
When I competed and wore that number, I competed for the state and for the people, not just for the university.
Now, let's roll out the carpet and bring on the Mountaineers.
Pittsburgh's three.
Yes! Alexander. Robinson comes going. It's a dunk right at his pin. Send it in, Joe. Butler into the lane, into traffic. It goes again. West Virginia has won its first Big East championship.
So long, Big Blue. Hello, Golden Blue. The West Virginia Mountaineers are going to the Final Four.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another edition of CRW Hoops. I am your host, as always, Stephen Vestal, joined by my co-host, Jordan Cruz. How are you today, Jordan?
Hey, doing good. What's happening, man?
Oh, we're playing role reversal this week, I guess. Not too many people might be accustomed to seeing this. But, West Virginia getting a win over the Mountaineers, the Mountain St. Mary's Mountaineers, if you will, which I got to say, man, this was more of a hard-fought battle than I think I and a lot of people may have thought it would be. But I think that, in my view, that was more a testament to how well the Mount shot the ball tonight. I don't know about what you thought, Cruz. What did you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think that it wasn't, like you said, I didn't think West Virginia played bad. I thought that, even in the second half, I thought they played a lot better offensively than, we'd seen in the scrimmage. And then even in the first half, they put up a lot more, 46 points in the second half after only scoring 30 in the first half. So I thought our Mountaineers played good, but the Mount St. Mary's Mountaineers, like you said, I thought they shot the basketball really well and they were fighting. They weren't giving up. Mountaineers would get that lead to 12-14, and then they, seemed like they hit a three, and they, of course, never really got down to single digits, but they wouldn't let us stretch it too far until right there at the end. We finally got it up to like 19 on that, and within that last couple of minutes. So, yeah, I thought that they were a really tough team, and, they may make some noise in their conference this year, and who knows, they could wind up in the big dance if they win their conference. So they definitely got some shooters there. That guy Benjamin for them, I think he had about 18 or so, and he was hitting some impressive shots. But all around, as far as West Virginia is concerned, I really liked what I saw from us defensively, and I loved what I saw from this team on the glass. And if I could say one thing about this team that really stood out to me is they really get after it. I love the hustle I see from these guys. It really looks like a Bob Huggins team.
Yeah, I absolutely 1,000% agree with everything that you just said. I think that the thing that jumps out to me about this team is like you just said, they're very fiery. That was the word that came to my mind instantly whenever I seen I remember, early in the game, with a team like this, no disrespect to Mount St. Mary's whatsoever, but, with a team like this, you expect West Virginia to blow them out, and especially early in the season like this. Both teams were, chipping back and forth, and I absolutely love that. I love that West Virginia is coming out of the gate hungry, and even against a team like this, they're not willing to overlook someone based upon just how small a school is. And I think West Virginia's fallen victim to that a lot on the basketball side of things, if you look back. But I'm like you. I loved what we seen on the offensive glass. I loved what we seen on in terms of rebounding all night long. And I think you have to, if you watched West Virginia play last year at all, because it was non-existent. So that was absolutely one thing that I love to see. The defense, one thing that I love specifically about the defense is we've seen somewhat of a press Virginia, I guess. but it's a non-traditional, so they didn't do it until a little later in the game, I noticed. And I think that not playing the press all the time, that does nothing but save a lot of your shooters' legs. You know what I mean? So I think that's a lot of the reason that we've seen the ball drop a little bit more for the Mountaineers too. But another thing I wanted to touch on was the play of a lot of these new guys. I don't guess there's some of these new guys because there's there's very few that were on this team last year, but specifically Muhammad Wagi and James Toussaint. Those two, oh my goodness, Toussaint especially. I love Toussaint's handles. I can name things specifics about each one that I've seen tonight, but those two, and then especially I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Emmett Matthews and his return to the Mountaineers tonight in Tacali. I'm so happy to see him play the way that he did. The alley-oop later in the second half got the crowd so fired up. But yeah, man. So I think that this team, they may not be the best team in the Big 12 Conference. I think that there's a lot of things that we need to work on going forward, but I do think that we're going to be a lot better basketball team than what we showed last year.
Yeah, I'd agree. My bold prediction, going into the season was I thought with these pieces West Virginia added that it would be a tournament team. And, I know it's one game against Mount St. Mary's, but I think I saw enough to stand by that moving forward in the future. I'm not saying West Virginia is going to compete for a conference title or anything, and I'm not saying that they're not. But I certainly think they're going to be better than they were last season and can get back to the big dance. And speaking of those newcomers, you mentioned a few guys, and I loved all those guys. I think Waggy's going to be one of my favorites. I love the way he cleans the glass. But the one that impressed me the most, I think, Trey Mitchell, man. If he's not 100%,
Absolutely.
If he's not 100%, when he's 100%, he's got the potential to be the leading scorer for this Mountaineer team, I think.
I think so too. I love the way that I said James Toussaint earlier. I just wanted to correct myself. Joe Toussaint.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different names. If I mix and match some of these names, I do apologize if anybody happens to catch that. There's just a lot to keep up with.
It's a lot of new faces.
But yeah, Trey Mitchell, man, cannot be more happy about him coming up here from Texas, because his style of play is very much top level. I think that the way he can shoot off the dribble, he can shoot catch and shoot, and he can drive the ball. I think that he has the potential to be, along with Emmett Matthews, the most all-around player that we have this year, because he can play just a multitude of positions on the floor. Yeah, I'm very much impressed out of him.
I didn't know that he could shoot like that until when they put him in and I saw him hit that three in that guy's face. I was like, oh, he can shoot. I knew he could score, but I didn't know that he was a shooter, because I knew he was, played the four, but I didn't know that he was, that type of four that was, the stretch four that could shoot and stuff like that. And he looks like he can really fill it up.
Yeah, I was very impressed. I was, I wish that I was impressed more with some of these, quote unquote shooters that we have heard about. Not to knock them at all, because I think Eric Stevenson had an okay game. I think foul trouble kept him. It really did. It hindered him a lot in this basketball game. But we'll see a lot more out of him moving forward, I do believe. Another guy that I heard a lot about that didn't really play up to par, I guess you could say, is Seth Wilson. There was a few chances that I thought a few opportunities that he had to make shots, and they just weren't really falling that much for him. He went, let's see, I believe he went 3 for 7, and 1 for 4 from the 3-point line. So not horrible, but I've heard a lot of people talking about Seth and how great of a shooter he was. And until later in the game, West Virginia wasn't really taking what I call smart shots or high percentage shots. I think that if I could gripe on the Mountaineers at all, it would be to get more high percentage shots more consistently throughout the game. And I even told myself that I wasn't going to mention that on this show, because I think that it's unfair to mention things like that can be cleaned up and, fairly quickly in the early part of the season. And so I don't really want to harp on things like that too much. And especially with a team with as many new pieces and new faces that we have.
Right. Right. But I think, like I said, it goes along with this being a Bob Huggins type team. I mentioned earlier the hustle and stuff makes it look like a Bob Huggins type team. But along with those type of teams, we also got, one of those typical Bob Huggins teams, 5-6 minute scoring droughts a couple times in this game too, which I think,
Yeah.
you're going to get. But I think you got guys that can potentially get you out of those droughts too. I think, Stevenson that you mentioned, I think he's a guy that can create his own shot. Trey Mitchell looks like he can as well, especially some of the guys he's going to be matched up against. And he looks like he's got some moves off the dribble even. So I think you got some scores that can potentially help you when you get into those, scoring slumps that you typically tend to get into at times.
Yeah, I believe so too. I think that if anything, this team is going to be very streaky. So like you said, there's going to be times where the lid's on the basket and we can't seem to find a shot. And there's going to be times where it feels like, anything and everything we throw up is going to go in and we're going to have the Coliseum jumping. Just like tonight, there was a few times where I'm like, man, we're going to let them come back and beat us. And hey, Bentley.
Making his always appearance.
Yeah. Hey, man, he's just trying to be famous is all. But trying to find where I was in my train of thought. But anyway, I think that West Virginia is going to be able to, like you said, find their way out of those droughts because they have guys that can shoot the ball. And I think that's more of what Huggins has meant whenever he said that the ball finally goes in. It's not that, it never doesn't go in, but I think it's just more that when we hit those droughts, we have guys that can bring us that can bring us out of that, pretty quickly. And I think that's a good thing for someone like West Virginia because the way that we recruit, and I think that it's shown over the years, the way that we recruit is, mainly one-sided. You're either going to get defensive or you're going to get offensive. And I think last year's a prime example of what you see whenever you try to mainly recruit offensively. Not that it doesn't work, but with Huggs's coaching style, I think that it's more, acclimatable to be a defensive team and to have one or two pieces in there that can, get you out of the drought and shoot the ball pretty well. But I think if anything, these guys can crash the boards, and that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I definitely wanted to bring up was the rebounds. I think West Virginia ended up with, what did they have? 45 rebounds in the game, and they even had 15 on the offensive glass. And I think we saw those guys get position on those weak side offensive rebounds. I mean, you saw Waggy, of course, is the one that stands out. I think he's going to be awesome on the glass for the Mountaineers this season. But Jimmy Bell had a few, and then, Josiah Harris, for a true freshman, I thought impressed as well. He's really athletic. He's long. He can shoot, and he was hitting the glass hard, particularly on the offensive end.
Yeah, that's you mentioned Jimmy Bell. I think that's one thing that I need to touch on is as much as he played throughout the entire game. He had seven rebounds. He didn't shoot a single shot. So I know that that's not his game, and then I know that his game is more go up and get it, and then get it to the guys who can shoot it. But with his size, man, you can only hope that he can go up and battle with some of these bigger guys in the Big 12 conference. Especially heading into conference play, and then going into a pretty tough battle not so far away in this Friday night against the Pitt Panthers. We'll try to
Power 5 competition.
Try to get to some of these comments here. There's a relative of yours, my good sir.
Hey,
Go Mountaineers.
my brother. What's up, bro?
Yes, sir. Go Mountaineers. Says, I think our starters are doing too much dribbling, need to pass more. I would agree with you in the first part of the game. I thought that as well. In the second part of the game, I thought West Virginia did a pretty good job of spreading the ball around. I thought that was actually one of the things, highlighted in my mind. Because normally West Virginia turns the ball over a lot when they try to spread the ball around, and it seemed to me like throughout the game they got better at it. So hopefully throughout the season they continue to do so.
Yeah, I think the one negative I would say right now is turnovers. They're going to have to cut down on those on the offensive end for sure. Maybe dribbling too much is a part of that. And I think Huggins even mentioned at halftime that he thought they were being a little bit, too generous, passing the ball a little bit too much at times even. So definitely want to cut down on turnovers.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Ryder Deem says we honestly have so much length, maybe some 1-3-1 in our future for change of pace. I wouldn't be mad at it just for, just nostalgia's sake. I've always loved the 1-3-1. But
I mean, speaking of that length, it's like I know at one point we had Waggy and shoot, the name slipped me right now. Who else was Okonkwo? I know we hadn't brought him up yet. James Okonkwo. He's 6'8", 240. He's stout, but he was really good on the glass as well. And at one point to the end of the first half, we had Waggy and Okonkwo in there together, and that was fun to watch both those guys on the glass. And then in the second half, when we were at a point when we were pressing, we had Trey Mitchell, Josiah Harris, and Emmett Matthews, all three in the game. And I think that's all three guys that have great length for that press, would be great for that 1-3-1. And then all our three guys that can score from the outside as well as the inside on offense. So I really like some of the different lineups West Virginia can throw at teams, and I think that length that they have plays a big part in that.
Oh, very much so. There's very much a multitude of different things we could do with these lineups. That's one thing I liked as well. Old Golden Blue Show says Josiah Harris crashed the boards all night. Great hustle out there. I absolutely agree. He agrees with you. I can't remember what that was, what he's agreeing with you on, but apparently you are right, Jordan.
I'll take it.
And 22 can ball. Who was 22?
Josiah, right? Josiah Harris, yep.
Was that Josiah? I know one was.
And he didn't even have a great night shooting. Josiah Harris was 0 of 5 from the field, 0 of 3 from the field, 0 of 3 on threes, 0 of 5 from the field. 5 boards though, but I mean, even for us to say, to the naked eye, he was standing out hitting the glass and stuff, shows that he's a guy that gets around. Even though he was 0 for 5 in this game, we did see him hit a couple threes in scrimmage, so we know it's there.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a freshman also, so I mean that's just impressive to see a guy that young that can play at that level so far. I think that the biggest thing for me is you can do this, against a team like Mount St. Mary's, but the Pitt's not a rollover, man. They're not the team that we played in the past couple of years. I think that this Pitt Panther basketball team may be a tough one to get. So I really hope that West Virginia can improve on the offensive side of the ball, mainly more in the earlier part of the game, I guess, to be more specific.
Yeah, I think so. Well, that's what I'm interested to see, right? Like, there's a lot of positivity coming out of this game, and I think it should be. And we all needed it as Mountaineer, sports fans. We know how things have been going for the football team, and we know the struggles of the past couple of years of the basketball team. And I think just to see this team come out and, hustle, we love to see that, the effort that they're showing. I think that all looks there. I think the defense and rebounding is going to be there. But now you just want to see it against, a higher level of competition. You'll get to see a glimpse of that Friday against Pitt, but then it's going to get even tougher as you go to that, that tournament there in Portland, Oregon, with a lot of top teams in the country. And then, of course, the Big 12, the toughest conference in basketball. So we're going to see in short order just how good and how much improved the Mountaineers are. But I definitely think that we could all probably agree that they look improved. Just don't know exactly how much improvement there is, but there's definitely improvement.
Yeah, I think that if anything, we can count on being a better basketball team than what we were last year. What that means for us, like you said, is still yet to be determined. One thing I wanted to touch on again, or, not again, but is I was at work whenever, the first part of the game happened. I was trying to get the game on whenever it was going on, but there was a point in the second half where there was technicals called against West Virginia, and then technicals called against the coach of Mount St. Mary's. I imagine that you were watching everything unfold. If mainly for me, but for anybody that's watching that didn't get to catch that, if you could break down what happened there, because I didn't get to catch that part.
I'm so glad you brought it up, because I wanted to bring it up too, and I almost let it slip my mind. So I'm glad you didn't forget. But yeah, I don't know. It was one of the strangest sequences I've seen in a while, because so the Mount St. Mary's guys dribbling the ball. Somehow it winds up, hits Joe Toussaint in the head. Joe Toussaint pushes it away. I think they call a foul on Joe Toussaint initially. Eric Stevenson's walking by. I don't know if someone on the Mount St. Mary's bench said something to him or not, but he just kind of turned around and was standing like they were having a little huddle there. And he was basically just standing in their huddle. And then next thing you know, the ref comes, tees him up, and then is yelling at him all the way back to our bench. They go review, I guess, the play, review the technical. So then they come out of the review and they announce they're going to give a technical to the Mount St. Mary's player as well. Once they do that, the Mount St. Mary's bench goes wild. They give a technical to the Mount St. Mary's bench. So you get, ultimately, after all this craziness, I described it on our Twitter as a very strange sequence, but
Absolutely.
Ultimately 3 technical fouls, one on the Mount St. Mary's player, one on their bench, one on Eric Stevenson, which hurt because it was his 4th foul. And I think, we didn't get to see the Eric Stevenson performance that we got to see in the scrimmage because of foul trouble, like you kind of mentioned earlier. And so that played a part in that. But I didn't really see anything egregious from Stevenson to warrant that technical. I don't know if the official that was calling the game tonight just kind of had a short, fuse, I guess, for, short, whatever you want to call it, short leash, I guess, and was throwing out technicals left and right. But, yeah, 3 in that one sequence there. So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it definitely sounded pretty crazy. I was listening to the multitude of that sequence on the radio, and I was trying to figure out what was going on through Tony. But it was it's a very confusing sequence to say the least. So thank you very much for clarifying, because it just seemed,
I don't know how much I cleared it up because I'm still a little confused about it myself, even watching it. So
well, you cleared it up more so than what I thought happened, because it seemed like, just because I had the TV turned down, this is when I first got home, was whenever it first happened, because I was walking in the door and I had the TV turned down and I had Tony in my headset listening to it. And it said that Eric Stevenson got a technical foul, and then all of a sudden I put the headset down, and all of a sudden I vaguely heard, Tony say, okay, and now they're going to give Mount St. Mary's coach a technical foul. And I was like, oh. So I couldn't tell I couldn't make, what from what there for a little bit. It was very confusing. Now let's go to the comments again. DT Reed, always good to hear from you, brother. He says confidence and chemistry will come after more games. I think we will have a guy that will take over and just go get that needed bucket in those scoring droughts. I absolutely agree. I think if I'm guessing, or if I'm a betting guy, my pick for that guy, quote unquote, would be Emmett Matthews. I think that his return to West Virginia has been nothing short of what we all expected it to be, if not more. Got one of our long lost hosts here, Mr. Bradley Brown. Always good to hear from you as well, sir. Had lots of highlights. Everyone seemed to really work for every ball and looked like a Bob Huggins team. I agree with that as well, especially when you look at how well they played defensively. That's definitely true to be said. DT Reed again says, I haven't gotten to see a lot of the basketball team yet, but what I've seen from Stevenson in practice, he might be that guy. Well, you're with everybody else there, because I don't think anybody has seen a lot of this basketball team unless you go back and watch, however many schools games from last year, because we got, I don't even know how many people were on this. Do we have any person on this team last year that's on the squad now?
4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5 maybe.
Yes, I think. The freshmen Kobe and Seth, and then Keedy.
Keedy was on the team last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
That's about it, man. Yeah, we're running off fairly new faces, man. This is completely swamped out squad.
Okonkwo, but he didn't play. Really,
right. Yeah, I mean, like, people who, saw the floor for.
Yeah, so I think it's just those 3. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, West Virginia fairly new, which is weird because we're very new faces, but very they're not very young at all. They're very old, in terms of seniority. So that hopefully bodes well for the Mountaineers.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I think Eric Stevenson, if I can say one thing about him, he's got that dog in him.
Yes, he does, bro. That's what I'm telling you, man. I don't know if it's him that drives that charge, but this entire team, from him to Joe Toussaint to to Muhammad Wagi, like they just had that fire. It was like they wanted to to fight with somebody if they needed to.
Yeah,
You know
they're
what I
hungry.
mean? Like
Yeah, they're
they're
scrappy. I like it.
I really hope that continues through the season. Not to say that I hope they go out and pick a fight with everybody, but you really, with the way that we played last year, you really got to come into this league with how powerful it's going to be, with how many good teams. Baylor's going to be probably a really good basketball team again this year. Kansas is going to be a very good basketball team again this year. So you're going to have a lot of teams in this conference that's going to be chomping at the bit to knock you down. And so I really hope that this team is like that throughout the season so they can, not to jinx anything, but I really want to make a push in not the NCAA tournament. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself there, but I really would like to make a push in the Big 12 tournament because we've made it to the championship game a few times, but we've never gotten over that hump to be able to win that game. And like we keep saying in football, if we really want to prove that we're relevant, then we need to prove that we can, to win on that stage as well. And so that's something that I hope West Virginia can compete for this year. But we go to the comments again. DT Reed says, I was thinking Matthews as well. Stevenson has that swag and / edginess about him. Yeah, he absolutely does. I think that just the way he carries himself, I love the way that Sean McNeil played. But I think that Eric Stevenson has my vote for my favorite out of the two, I guess you could say, because of that swagginess. He just plays with a confidence that, he's always going to bring it every night. And we've only seen him play one game in Morgantown, and I can tell you that just from the sheer way that he plays and the tenacity that he brings. I know that he's made a fan out of you so far, Cruz.
Oh, that's my guy right now. I've bought into the arm sleeve East Steve hype.
Yeah,
for sure. And I was a fan of Sean McNeil too, but I think with Eric Stevenson, you get what Sean McNeil, gave you, the shooting from the outside. Eric Stevenson can do that, but you add a lot more to that as well. He can go off the dribble. He can attack the glass. He's better at the free throw line. He's better defensively, and he can crash the glass. He crashes the glass. He's just a better all-around player. Maybe Sean McNeil's a better spot shooter. You may give Sean McNeil an advantage there, but I think you upgraded with that. The only thing that this team is I guess missing is you don't know who's going to fill in the scoring that you lost, from Taz Sherman, just because he was such a high volume scorer. You don't really have one guy, but I think that you have a multitude of guys that in combination, when you add their point totals together, will, not only equal that, but surpass that. Because I think you've got 3 to 4, maybe even 5 guys, if you want to be generous, that could potentially be double figure type scorers for you, game in, game out.
I think so too. I harped on Seth Wilson a little bit earlier, just off of one game, and I shouldn't be so unfair as to do that, because I think that Seth was going to have his fair share of good scoring nights for the Mountaineers this year. And I think that you mentioned Trey Mitchell. I think that he's going to have some really good games this year. Emmett Matthews, I think that would be my pick for quote unquote the guy. I love the way that he has played. I love the way that he played tonight. I can't say what he's going to play like for the rest of the season, but I can tell you for the 3 years that he was in Morgantown, I love his style of play then, and it's not even comparable to what I've seen out of that kid tonight. I think that he is by far and away improved. I think that he has done nothing but improve the way that he approaches the game since he's been gone, and he's grown up a lot in the past year. And so that would be my pick for I guess quote unquote the guy.
He's definitely got the potential. I mean, you can look back when he was a redshirt freshman, dropped 28 on, Texas Tech, that went on to play for the national championship that year, nearly won it, to, beat them in the Big 12 tournament. West Virginia pulled that upset in that first round game, and he was the guy for the Mountaineers in that game.
Yep.
And, things didn't progress the way we thought they would. Who knows the reasons behind that, but he was a guy that never burned his bridges when he left. He was always really respectful to the program and kept a good relationship with the coaches, and to the point where he was welcomed back with open arms. And I think he was getting some of the loudest crowd reactions tonight, especially, when we had those couple fast breaks in. I think he had 2 or 3 dunks in the game, and the crowd went wild. And I'm really happy to have him back. And I think this was one of his better performances as a Mountaineer already. It was, his first game back, nearly a triple-double, was at 15, 7, and 5 or something like that. I just looked a second ago. But great performance from him, and I think he definitely has that potential to be, the guy maybe.
Yep. Absolutely agree, man. Absolutely agree. Well, we normally go for about an hour on these little post-game things, but that's what's different between football and basketball, I guess. You got a little bit shorter of a game, so you got less to talk about. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Cruz, I'll let you go ahead and do your nightly plugs if you want to go ahead and do that. Tell everybody where to find us.
We got plenty of stuff coming for sure now that both sports in full gear. Country Roads Webcast is going to be putting out plenty of Mountaineer sports content. As you see our Twitter there on the bottom of the screen, follow along for that. In-game tweets for the basketball games, football games. It's at WVU Country Roads there. We will have the Oklahoma preview episode dropping midweek on the football side. The Iowa State preview just dropped. That's season 5, episode 147 of the COW podcast. Check that out if you haven't. I got player grades videos coming out, snap counts videos coming out, and we're going to try and pop a CRW Hoops pod in. So it'll be up here, video version for you guys on YouTube, and of course the audio version on any podcast platform you like. Just search Country Roads Webcast, and we'll talk a little bit, more about this game at the beginning of that one, just to kind of wrap it up, put a bow on it, and then preview the basketball version of the Backyard Brawl. So that'll be coming as well. So all kinds of content coming. Subscribe to us here. Helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer football and basketball content out to Mountaineer Nation. And then if you're in here watching this with us live, or if you're watching the playback, be sure and hit the like button. That'll help this video's performance and help all those future videos performance that you can find here on the channel and Country Roads Webcast. So subscribe to us, video here on YouTube, and then audio version. If you like listen to podcasts, you can find us on any podcast platform. So plenty of stuff coming. That's pretty much all I got, I guess, man.
Yeah, we are very busy. We're in the busy time of the year in the sports world, to say the least. But other than that, I want to thank everybody for chiming in the comments tonight. Those are always appreciated. But like Cruz said, we'll be having some more content coming towards you later this week. But that's all we got for you tonight. I guess we'll see you next time. But as always, let's go Mountaineers.